if it happens. Okay, so just tell. Okay, so just tell me whether my screen is visible to all.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hmm. So this is the first
Yes, ma'am.
lecture
Visible.
for ATT. Okay, okay. Hmm. So after long time we are meeting. So I have taken analog communication for both the division students A and B in second year. And last semester this communication subject was not there for ATT, but this semester we are having communication subject for this ATT part. Okay, so I welcome you for this. So you just tell me whether my voice is properly audible or not. In between, if any problem, you can tell me immediately. Okay, audible आहे?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hmm. So, as the first part of this training, I will formally introduce myself. So I am Neeta Kulkarni. I have completed my BE and ME from Srevis College of Engineering, Pandharpur. And currently I am pursuing PhD from Sanjay Ghodawat University, Kolhapur. And my PhD topic it is in the field of antenna. Experience I have 4 years of industrial experience and 11.5 years of teaching experience. If you see the subject taught, mostly I have taught all the subjects related to this communication domain. So analog communication I have taught for both your divisions A and B last year. Before that 2 years also I have taught analog communication, optical communication, satellite communication, principles of digital communication, software engineering and project management, STLD. These subjects I have taught for this UG, and for PG I have taught the advanced light wave communication subject. So that is similar like our optical communication, and optical networks I have taught for their ME part. Okay. And areas of specialization, it is communication, image processing and antenna. Publication part that I have around 10 international journal paper publications and international conference, 4 conference I have presented the papers. So recently in November 2020, I have presented one paper in the international conference that was at Japan, held in online mode. It was 10 2020. So this is introduction from my side. Okay, so now we will start with the syllabus of GATE part. Okay, so before I start, can anyone tell me what information you know about this GATE 2020? Whatever we are going to or you are going to face this time? Okay, can anyone tell what information you know about this GATE exam? What is the exam pattern or which type of questions are asked? Anything you can tell whatever you know because that should be interactive. Online doesn't mean that only one side communication it should be. तुम्हाला जे काय माहित असेल गेट या एक्झाम बद्दल या गेट 2022 you can tell me. We can have that discussion on that part. Yes, anybody please? Prajakta, Prajakta
Yes, ma'am.
Kulkarni,
Yes, ma'am.
can you tell?
Ma'am, yes, ma'am.
Hmm.
Ma'am, firstly, it has the MCQ questions and MSQ
Hmm.
questions, and uh,
Yes.
few are 1 marks question and few are 2 marks question, which contain the different subjects like digital communication, AC. The all our subjects contain has 2 marks and divided into 2 marks questions and 1 mark questions.
Okay. Okay, anybody else? Others? Vaishnavi Gote, can you tell something about this gate exam pattern? Are you there, Vaishnavi?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Vaishnavi.
Uh, First session is of aptitude, and second session is of all our subject,
Hmm.
that is communication, control system, digital circuit, uh, network, and it all two session carries
Good.
100 marks.
Just a minute. We will discuss that. Two, 3 points I will share with you. So, okay, so this is the gate pattern. Are you able to see that? Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Index page is
Are
visible.
you able to see the screen? Okay. Okay. So syllabus also you will able to see. So here it is gate exam pattern. So total there are having 65 questions will be there in the gate exam. So that questions will be basically of these types, two, three types. एक आहेत तुमचे MCQ टाईपचे. MCQ टाईप मध्ये पण दोन क्वेश्चन्स आहेत. One type of questions are for 1 mark and another type of questions are for 2 marks. So for MCQ questions only you are having the निगेटिव्ह मार्किंग स्कीम म्हणजे 1 मार्काला क्वेश्चन असेल तर 1/3 मार्क्स विल बी रिड्यूस्ड and if it is for 2 marks same 1/3 means 0.33 and 0.66 that marks will be reduced for this MCQ type questions. So in this graph you can see that distribution of that marks. I will just maximize the size. Okay, total there are 65 questions. So if you see there are total 65 questions and out of 65 questions on your general knowledge or aptitude and total 55 questions are based on the technical part. So based on our subjects in our degree that
Ma'am,
so
your voice is breaking.
properly.
No, ma'am.
आवाज is it clear now?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it clear now? Okay, you just give me 1 minute. Okay, is it audible now properly?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Prajakta? Okay. So these five questions for 1 mark each. It is having negative marking system. पुढचे जे ह्यातलेच 5 आहेत ते 2 मार्काला आहेत. So total it will be for 15 marks. And remaining 55 number of questions are based on our technical subjects. Okay, so that syllabus we will see. So here overall weightage it is given for this marks. Okay, so this files also I will share with you so that you will understand it. Okay, and next we will see the syllabus for our technical subjects. So can anyone tell which are the technical subjects for this time? Forget, because every time it is randomly changing, not all but tentatively काही part syllabus मधला change होतो. So can anyone tell which subjects are there in our ENTC part for technical subjects? कुठले कुठले subjects आहेत सांगा मला. स्क्रीन दिसते का सगळ्यांना?
Yes, ma'am. मॅम कंट्रोल सिस्टीम आहे,
ओके.
डिजिटल
हां
टेक्निक्स आहे,
हां.
कम्युनिकेशन आहे, सिग्नल्स अँड सिस्टीम आहे,
Yes.
इलेक्ट्रोमॅग्नेटिक्स आहे.
Others? Yes, correct. So here is the list of the subjects and tentative syllabus. I will just go through that. First subject it is engineering mathematics. Respective teachers will tell you about the syllabus. Then networks, signals and systems. Okay, so as it is the first lecture for this ATT, I am just showing you the syllabus. Second subject I have network, signals and systems. Third one it is electronic devices. So व्हेरियस डिव्हाइसेस तुमच्या ई-कॅट टाईपचा हा सब्जेक्ट आहे. इलेक्ट्रॉनिक डिव्हाइसेस, एनालॉग सर्किट that is also related to basic electronics. Then digital circuit, same to your DT subject, control systems, and the seventh part it is the communication. Okay, so for communication also we will see the syllabus in detail, and last section it is electromagnetic part. Okay, so for this electromagnetic part also one point it is there, light propagation through optical fiber. So for that I am going to deal for this particular point. Okay, so this is about the overall syllabus of this gate, and then now we will see the syllabus of communication. Okay, so communicationचा syllabus जर आपण बघितला तर total it can be divided into 4 points. फर्स्ट वन इज अॅनालॉग कम्युनिकेशन. पहिल्या याच्यामध्ये आपण जर ह्याला चॅप्टर वाईज बघायचं म्हटलं तर पहिलं चॅप्टर आहे अॅनालॉग कम्युनिकेशन. सो ऑल ऑफ यू हॅव स्टडीड द अॅनालॉग कम्युनिकेशन सब्जेक्ट इन फर्स्ट सेमिस्टर ऑफ सेकंड इयर. सो अॅनालॉग कम्युनिकेशन मधले कुठले पॉइंट्स आहेत बघायचं. अँप्लिट्यूड मॉड्युलेशन, मॉड्युलेशन, डिमॉड्युलेशन, of AM as well as FM. So can anyone tell what is the meaning of the spectrum? Can you tell? That
It
is one
is,
graph about which
ma'am, it is the
spectrum.
band of frequency.
बेसिकली जर डेफिनेशन आपण बघितली तर इट इज बँड ऑफ फ्रिक्वेन्सी. म्हणजे स्पेक्ट्रम जो आहे ऑब्विसली फ्रिक्वेन्सी स्पेक्ट्रम इज हॅव्हिंग द मोर फोकस ऑन फ्रिक्वेन्सी पार्ट. मग एम आणि एफ एम ह्याच्या कॅरेक्टरिस्टिक्स विथ रिस्पेक्ट टू स्पेक्ट्रम. सो युजली आपण जेव्हा ग्राफ ड्रॉ करतो तेव्हा एक्स ऍक्सिस वर आपण घेतो टाइम आणि वाय ऍक्सिस वर घेतो व्होल्टेज. बट इन केस ऑफ दिस फ्रिक्वेन्सी on x-axis we are taking frequency as a basic parameter. फ्रिक्वेन्सीशी रिलेटेड सगळ्या कॅरेक्टरिस्टिक्स आपण कन्सिडर करून त्या ड्रॉ करतो. दॅट इज द मिनिंग ऑफ फ्रिक्वेन्सी स्पेक्ट्रम. So we have to see how to draw the frequency spectrum of AM and FM. So for that we have to go again through the basic part, basic derivation. कारण फ्रिक्वेन्सी स्पेक्ट्रम बघण्यासाठी आपल्याला आधी त्याचं बेसिक डेरिवेशन बघायला पाहिजे. Based on the basic mathematical derivation of that signal, only we are able to draw the frequency spectrum. Okay, so first we have to see the frequency spectrum, or first we have to see the derivation to understand the frequency spectrum and super heterodyne रिसिव्हर. मग एएम मध्ये दोन टाईपचे रिसिव्हर आहेत, सुपर हेट्रोडाईन रिसिव्हर अँड TRF रिसिव्हर. सो कॅन एनीवन टेल विच रिसिव्हर इट इज हॅव्हिंग द गुड परफॉर्मन्स? दोन टाईपचे रिसिव्हर आहेत एएम मध्ये, TRF रिसिव्हर आणि सुपर हेट्रोडाईन रिसिव्हर. सो इफ यू कम्पेअर दॅट बोथ, can anyone tell which type of receiver it is having better performance? Can anyone tell? TRF receiver stands for what? What is the long form of TRF receiver? Just give the answers. Let it be wrong. Yes, Kaustubh. What is the long form of TRF receiver? AM receiver मध्ये बघितलं आपण. TRF stands for what? TRF stands for
टीचा
what?
टीचा लॉंग फॉर्म नाही माहित.
Hmm.
RF इज रेडिओ
Hmm.
फ्रिक्वेन्सी. टीचा
TRF stands for. Okay.
Tune the
So
radio
TRF stands
frequency
for
receiver.
tune. Yes, correct. Tuned radio frequency receiver. मग दोन जे रिसिव्हर आहेत AM मध्ये, TRF receiver and super heterodyne receiver. So out of that, the super heterodyne receiver it is giving the good performance. मग हा पहिला पार्ट आहे अॅनालॉग कम्युनिकेशन मधला. आपल्याला बेसिक म्हणजे AM FM चं रिव्हिजन घ्यायचंय आणि after that we have to see how to draw the frequency spectrum of AM and FM, and we have to see the concepts of super heterodyne receiver. So I will do one thing. Whatever are the notes of AM chapter and FM chapter related to this particular points, all that notes I will share with you either in your study material or also I will put the notes. तुमच्या सेकंड इयरच्या ज्या नोट्स आहेत AM आणि FM चॅप्टरच्या, तर स्पेक्ट्रम जे आहेत, AM चं स्पेक्ट्रम you will get in chapter number 3, super heterodyne receiver you will get in chapter number 4, and FM you will get in chapter number 5. So that particular points I will share with you because that points we have to revise first. So I am planning in the way that today and tomorrow we will revise the basic concepts, and from that next lecture we will start with the particular questions whatever are asked in this GATE exam. Okay, so are you convenient with that, or you want some another method for this? You can give your input. आधी बेसिक कन्सेप्ट रिवाइज करावे लागतील ना तुम्हाला. डायरेक्टली क्वेश्चन्स if we start, that will not be convenient. So that is my perception. You can tell your opinion about that. Yes, Prajakta, is it okay?
Yes, ma'am, it is okay.
So I will share that notes with you today. You just go through that. You need not to read all the points. If you read, that is okay. But at least you can go through that basic points. AM, what is basic working principle, modulation, demodulation, how we are drawing the frequency spectrum of AM, how we are drawing frequency spectrum of FM, and super heterodyne receiver. मग super heterodyne receiver मध्ये दोन type आहेत, single conversion and double conversion. Okay, so this part it is simple, first chapter, and second chapter it is information theory. So this you have learnt in the PDC subject, first chapter. Information theory मध्ये we are going to see the points: entropy, mutual information, channel capacity theorem, fundamentals of error correction methods, Hamming codes and CRC codes. That points we are going to see, and mostly there are formulae related to this point. We will not again see that basic theoretical point, but we will give more focus based on the formulae for this second chapter. आणि त्याच्यावरचे जे न्यूमरिकल्स आहेत that we will see. Also related to this, what type of questions are frequently asked, that also we will discuss, and what are the probable shortcut methods to solve that questions, that we will discuss. Okay, so these two chapters probably that will be taken by me. Okay, so another teacher for this communication subject it is Baldar sir. So probably this remaining two chapters that will be taken by the another faculty. So that chapters are random processes and digital communication. Okay, so these points also you have learnt in the PDC subject. Random process मध्ये autocorrelation, power spectral density, properties of white noise, filtering of random signals through LTI system. हे रँडम प्रोसेसेसचे पार्ट्स आहेत. आणि डिजिटल कम्युनिकेशन मध्ये अगेन यू आर गोइंग टू सी व्हॉट आर द digital modulation methods. So it can be divided into two parts. एक आहे तुमचं PCM आणि DPCM, and another point in that it is schemes, different schemes, ASK, PSK, FSK. That methods you have to revise. You have to see the basic points related to the bandwidth, intersymbol interference, how to detect or how to do the modulation of these points, demodulation of these points, how the SNR ratio it is dependent on that, and bit error rate. So probably these points will be taken by Baldar sir. So right now we are going to focus on these two chapters at the initial stage. Okay. So for understanding these basic points, now are you clear with? Now I will not discuss about further chapters more. आता फर्स्ट चॅप्टर मध्ये काय बघायचं आपल्याला समजलंय सगळ्यांना. वी हॅव टू गिव्ह फोकस ऑन द बेसिक पॉइंट्स इन. आता ह्याच्यामध्ये कसं आहे फक्त कन्सेप्ट पण नाही. इफ यू सी द प्रिव्हियस क्वेश्चन पेपर्स, मोस्ट ऑफ द क्वेश्चन्स आर आस्क्ड बेस्ड ऑन मॉड्युलेशन इंडेक्स. इफ मॉड्युलेशन इंडेक्स इज 50% and carrier power is 10 watt, what will be the total power. मग त्याच्याशी रिलेटेड जे काही पॉइंट्स आहेत ते सगळे आपल्याला फॉर्म्युले सुद्धा रिवाइज करावे लागतील, and theoretical points also we have to revise. So in this I have appeared that GATE exam 3-4 times. So from my that experience I am telling you that न्यूमरिकल्स जास्त विचारतात तुम्हाला AM मध्ये rather than theoretical questions. More numericals are asked, and that are asked on the modulation index, power calculation in AM, different frequency parameters calculation in AM. So based on that the questions are asked. Okay, so we will just start with this basic points required for the first chapter. So these are very basic things, but just I will revise quickly. Basics of communication. So now, can anyone tell me what is communication and what is the difference in analog communication and digital communication? It's very basic questions I am asking. Can anyone tell?
Ma'am,
Hmm.
communication means the transfer of idea, thoughts from one
Hmm.
place to another place or one point to another point.
Yes. Huh.
And analog communication means we
Hmm.
transfer the signal in the analog form, that is with respect to the signal is changing with respect to time. And with digital signal means that we convert the analog signal into digital format, that is in the 0 1
Hmm.
format, and we send that signal.
Yes. Okay. Very good, Prajakta. So these points we have already seen, but let me revise it as a part of first chapter. So communication, it is simply defined as process of transmitting information, signal, person or object from one point to another point. That is the basic definition of communication. Okay, so transferring the information, signal, person, object from one point to another point. That transfer it is called as the communication. And we can say that communication is successful only when the receiver is getting the information whatever transmitter wants to send. म्हणजे ट्रान्समीटरने जी इन्फॉर्मेशन ट्रान्समिट केलेली आहे ती जर रिक्वायर्ड इन्फॉर्मेशन रिसिव्हरला मिळाली तर त्या केसमध्येच आपण कम्युनिकेशन प्रॉपर झालंय असं म्हणू शकतो. ओके, सो देर आर टू टाइप्स ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन्स वी कॅन डिफाईन रँडमली or mainly non-technical communication and technical communication. In our day-to-day life also we are using communication. We cannot live without communication. From our start of the day, communication it is required in our life. So non-technical communication जर example बघितले आपण, people talking to each other, simply in front of each other if they are talking, there also communication is taking place, but there is no any modulation or any technical part. If I am delivering the lecture in the class, that is also the example of non-technical communication. Family members talking to each other. Then daily examples of technical communication, if you see, talking on phone, delivering online lecture. जर मी कुठलीच मेथड यूज न करता सिम्पली क्लासमध्ये शिकवत असेल तर दॅट विल बी टेक्निक नॉन टेक्निकल कम्युनिकेशन. And if I'm taking this lecture online, that will come under the technical communication, writing emails, television, radio, satellite communications. Okay, so this is very simple part. So this is about the communication. Okay, so nothing in the world can have the smooth functioning without the communication part. Okay, so this is one just diagram. Signal is transmitted from A to B and again from B to A. That is engineering system. This is social system. This is the genetic system. So this is the general diagram of communication. Now, two types of communication you have seen: analog communication and digital communication. For that, we have to see the difference between analog signal and digital signal. See, these are very basic things. You may feel it is not required to explain, but still it happens that sometimes there are some doubts or some basic points are not clear. Hmm. So I am repeating these things. So basically signal means what? Everyone knows. Signal is a function that is represented in graphical form. आता सिग्नल जर आपण म्हणलं तर तो ग्राफिकल फॉर्म मध्येच रिप्रेझेंट करावा लागतो. So signal is nothing but it is some information which is represented in the graphical form. So it refers to any time varying voltage, current or electromagnetic wave. कुठल्याही फॉर्म मध्ये तो सिग्नल असू शकतो. It is carrying the information. And signal is also defined as an observable change in a quality or it is in the quantity. Okay, so there are two types of signals mainly in electronic communication. आता आपण जे डिस्कस करतो इथं, that we are discussing just related to electronic communication. Otherwise, if you consider voice is also one kind of signal. Voice signal कुठल्या फॉर्म मध्ये असतो सांगू शकताय कोणी मला? It is in analog form or it is in the digital form?
Analog.
Analog, yes, correct. So analog signal, basically signals are classified in two types: analog signal and digital signal. So simply analog signal is continuous signal. In our simple words, what we are calling analog signal as a continuous signal. It is having time on x-axis, voltage on y-axis. आता आपण analog signal ची equation सुद्धा बघितलेले. So analog signal basically contains two parameters. One is its voltage part, which is represented on y-axis, and another it is its time parameter, which is represented on the x-axis. So this is the analog signal, which value continuously change होते. And another it is the digital signal. So here is also one more diagram for this digital signal. So digital signal, it is nothing but it is in the form of pulses. So this is additional information given here. You can read that. But main difference जर आपण बघितला तर काय असतो? Analog signal is continuous form and digital signal is in the form of bits, 0 and 1. So that is the basic difference between this analog signal and digital signal. Now both the signals are having some advantages, some disadvantages. Okay, but both the types of communication you have seen. मग ज्या communication system मध्ये analog signal आपण transmit करतो, that system it is called as the analog communication system. And the system in which you transmit the digital signal, that is called as the digital communication systems. Okay, so these are the two types of the systems: analog communication and digital communication. Are you getting the difference? ज्याच्यामध्ये अॅनालॉग सिग्नल आपण ट्रान्समिट करतो त्या कम्युनिकेशन सिस्टमला आपण analog communication म्हणतो. And when we are transmitting the digital signal through that system, then it is called as the digital communication system. Now we will just quickly revise this basic block diagram of communication. So can anyone tell what are the main blocks in the communication system? Any communication system? What are the main blocks without which we cannot build any communication system in the world? What are the three basic blocks required for a communication system?
Transmitter, channel and receiver.
Yes, transmitter, channel and receiver. These are the basic points in block diagram of communication system. Transmitter, receiver. Okay, here it is there. आता based on the system, there can be some sub blocks, that is different. But basic तीन ब्लॉक आहेत कम्युनिकेशन सिस्टम मध्ये: ट्रान्समीटर, रिसीव्हर आणि चॅनल. ओके, So transmitter is transmitting the information signal. Then that transmitted signal is given to the channel, and through channel it is given to the receiver. Okay, so this is about the communication system ब्लॉक डायग्राम. ही झाली बेसिक ब्लॉक डायग्राम. ओके, मग ह्या ट्रान्समीटर मधून जर अॅनालॉग सिग्नल ट्रान्समिट झाला तर रिसिव्हरला अॅनालॉग सिग्नल मिळेल, त्याला आपण म्हणतो अॅनालॉग कम्युनिकेशन. जर डिजिटल सिग्नल ट्रान्समिट झाला तर रिसिव्हरला डिजिटल सिग्नल मिळेल, दॅट वी कॉल इट ॲज अ डिजिटल कम्युनिकेशन सिस्टीम. मग आपण त्याच्यामधले सब ब्लॉक बघितले इथं. पहिली जी डायग्राम होती ती बेसिक ब्लॉक डायग्राम होती, 3 ब्लॉक रिप्रेझेंट केले होते आपण त्याच्यामध्ये. आणि ह्याची जर इन डिटेल डायग्राम आपण बघितली कम्युनिकेशन सिस्टीमची, तर हिअर इट इज देअर. सो दिस इज ट्रान्समीटर पार्ट. फर्स्ट ब्लॉक इट इज इन्फॉर्मेशन सोर्स. सो व्हॉट इज द फंक्शन ऑफ इन्फॉर्मेशन सोर्स? आता इथं आपण फक्त इलेक्ट्रिकल कम्युनिकेशन सिस्टीम बघतोय, त्यामुळे त्या रेफरन्सनीच आपण डिस्कस करतोय. सो इन्फॉर्मेशन सोर्स काय फंक्शन आहे त्याचं सांगा मला. ओके, प्लीज गिव्ह द आन्सर्स फास्ट. दीज आर व्हेरी बेसिक थिंग्स आय एम आस्किंग.
generate the
Information source.
information.
Yes, information source generates the information signal which we have to transmit. मग जर analog communication असेल तर इथं तो analog signal generate करेल. Digital communication असेल तर it will generate the digital signal. So in practicals you have seen the block called as the function generator. Function generator म्हणजे काय? It is nothing but information source. So it will generate the information, then it is given to the transmitter. आता इथं ह्या ट्रान्समीटर मध्ये we are using the modulator part. So modulation means what? We will see that. But just in this block diagram you understand की जर हा अॅनालॉग सिग्नल असेल इन्फॉर्मेशन सोर्सने जनरेट केलेला, तर ट्रान्समीटर मध्ये आपण मॉड्युलेटर यूज करतो. देन modulation is done to increase the strength of the signal. To make the signal in more suitable form for transmission we are using this modulator. ट्रान्समीटर मध्ये मॉड्युलेटर यूज करतो आपण जर हा अॅनालॉग सिग्नल असेल तर. जर हा डिजिटल सिग्नल असेल तर इथं काय यूज करतो आपण? एन्कोडर वी आर युजिंग. सो एन्कोडर मीन्स व्हॉट? इट इज coding the information signal in some specific form. So we are using encoder here if it is digital system, and we are using the modulator if it is the analog communication system. So then the signal is made in more suitable form for transmission. Then the transmitted signal is given to the channel. Now what is the function of channel? Can anyone tell? What is the function
It
of
is a
channel?
it, it is a path which
Ah.
flows the signal from transmitter to receiver.
ट्रान्समीटर कडून रिसिव्हरला सिग्नल कॅरी करण्यासाठी आपण हा चॅनल यूज करतो. सो इट इज द पाथ बिटवीन द ट्रान्समीटर अँड रिसिव्हर. सो देर आर 2 टाइप्स ऑफ चॅनल्स, मेनली वायर्ड चॅनल अँड वायरलेस चॅनल. आता जे आपण डिजिटल कम्युनिकेशन मध्ये किंवा अॅनालॉग कम्युनिकेशन मध्ये चॅनल बघतोय, ऑल दॅट कम्स अंडर द वायर्ड चॅनल. म्हणजे ज्याच्यामध्ये काहीतरी फिजिकल मीडिया आपण यूज केलेला आहे. सो दॅट इज कॉल्ड एज वायर्ड चॅनल that we are using in this analog and digital communication system. Then here in channel some noise is added. So noise chapter also you have seen in analog communication. Noise is added in the channel. Different methods also we are using to remove or minimize the noise part in the channel. Then this is the final signal that is received at the receiver. आता इथे जर आपण मॉड्युलेटर यूज केला असेल तर रिसिव्हर मध्ये आपण काय यूज करणार? We will use the demodulator part. Here if we have used the encoder, then we will use the decoder in the receiver part. Then what is the function of demodulator? Can anyone tell? Demodulator चं काय फंक्शन सांगा. What is the function of demodulator in communication system? What is the function of this demodulator?
It is a device which
to draw back the
demodulates.
original
Okay. Yes, Giridhar, continue.
to draw the original signal back into its form.
So to extract the original modulating signal, we are using the receiver at the, or we are using the demodulator as a first block in this receiver. Then from the modulated signal, original signal is recovered, and that final signal we get at the destination. Okay, so this is the generalized block diagram of communication system. Based on the applications, some more blocks can be also added, but these are the basic blocks. Okay. Okay, so this is the block diagram of communication system. Now we will see these are the general applications of analog communication system: telephone, video signal transmission, television, satellite communication. These are the general applications of analog communication. Okay, so just to give you idea की कुठल्या चॅप्टर मधले पॉइंट्स आपल्याला आहेत analog communication शी related. I am just showing you the syllabus. So first chapter हे analog communicationचा syllabus मी तुम्हाला इथे दाखवते. मग ह्या फर्स्ट चॅप्टर पैकी आपल्याला काय बघायचं आहे फक्त मॉड्युलेशन डिमॉड्युलेशनचा कन्सेप्ट. So these notes are not required. Second chapter is noise. Noise part also is not there in our syllabus. But this chapter's notes you will require AM transmission. So here we will see how the AM signal is generated. So third chapter ची related points आहेत आपल्या syllabus मध्ये. AM reception शी related point आहे. AM receiver मध्ये दोन टाइप आहेत बघा, TRF receiver आणि super heterodyne receiver. So out of that, this super heterodyne receiver we have to see. And this is chapter number 5, FM transmission and receiver. मग ह्या सिलेबस मधला जर बघितला तर गेट पॉइंट ऑफ व्ह्यू ने तुम्हाला चॅप्टर नंबर 3 इज इम्पॉर्टंट, 4 is important, and 5 is important. If some of you are having the notebooks with you, you can just go through that notes, or I am also going to provide you the notes. You just focus on the points whatever are there in your syllabus from this chapter. आणि पल्स अॅनालॉग मॉड्युलेशन हा चॅप्टर होता, ह्याचा सुद्धा एक पॉइंट आहे तुम्हाला तुमच्या ATTच्या सिलेबस मध्ये. ओके, सो दीज आर द पॉइंट्स दॅट यू रिक्वायर. So now we are seeing the chapter number 1. मग आता पण पहिल्यांदा बघितलं communication means what, basic block diagram of communication. Now we have to focus on this point, modulation. So can anyone define the modulation and why we use the modulation? Because this modulation is core part of analog communication. You cannot study the analog communication properly without understanding the point of modulation. So first we will see the revision of the points modulation and demodulation. So what is the meaning of modulation? Can anyone tell?
Modulation is the process in which the
Hmm.
data of transmission data is increase the strength of transmission data to travel long distance. So we can use the modulation technique.
Yes, correct. Anybody else?
Modulation is a process in which we changes the characteristics of carrier signal according to information signal for long distance communication.
Yes, correct. Both the definitions are correct. So briefly जर आपण बघितलं तर मॉड्युलेशन ही प्रोसेस आहे जी आपण मेनली कशासाठी यूज करतो. we are using the modulation to increase the strength of the signal. आता सिग्नल कुठलाही असू दे मग त्याची नॅचरल कॅरेक्टरिस्टिक्स काय असते की जसं जसं ट्रान्समिशन डिस्टन्स इन्क्रीज होतं तसं तसं त्या सिग्नलची स्ट्रेंथ कमी होते. सो वी वॉन्ट the signal to have the long distance transmission. So naturally, if I am talking with you for up to 100 meter, the voice can be audible. Beyond that, it is not audible because strength of the signal will go on decreasing. So we have to choose some another technique by which we can increase the strength of the signal, and that is called as the modulation method. But the modulation is the process which is used to increase the strength of the signal. But modulation is having two forms, analog modulation and digital modulation, that we will see. But before going to that, just let me take some simple example for you to understand the concept of modulation, which will clear all the basic terms and you will remember it properly. Okay. Suppose मॉड्युलेशन मध्ये आपल्याला दोन सिग्नल लागतात, मॉड्युलेटिंग सिग्नल आणि carrier signal. Okay, so which is having higher frequency in this? Can you tell? दोन सिग्नल लागतात
Carrier
मॉड्युलेशन मध्ये,
signal.
मॉड्युलेटिंग आणि yes, carrier signal is having the higher frequency if you compare the analog and if you compare the modulating signal and carrier signal. Now I will tell you one simple example which will clear the concept of modulation. Suppose you have to travel from Pandharpur to Solapur. You have to travel from Pandharpur to Solapur. So Pandharpur will be the transmitter part and Solapur will be the receiver part. आता जर तुम्ही you consider yourself as a modulating signal, because modulating signal is having another names as information signal, or it is also called as the baseband signal. जी information actually आपल्याला transmit करायचे, that is called as the information signal and it is known as modulating signal and baseband signal. आता तुम्हाला पंढरपूर वरून सोलापूरला जायचे, so you are acting as the information signal, that is nothing but the modulating signal. But you know your strength is low because you cannot walk alone up to that much 80-kilometer distance, whatever it is there. You can walk up to 1 kilometer, 2 kilometer, but after that your speed will be reduced, your strength will be reduced, so you will not be able to walk alone yourself from Pandharpur to Solapur. So what you do in that case, you are taking help of some another signal, or you are taking help of some another object which is having the speed obviously which is more than you. आता तुमचं स्पीड कॅपॅसिटी कमी आहे म्हणून तुम्ही दुसऱ्या कुठल्या तरी गोष्टीचा सपोर्ट घेता त्यावेळेस, की ज्याच्यामुळे तुमचा स्पीड वाढतो, तुमची कॅपॅसिटी वाढते आणि तुमचं ट्रॅव्हलिंग टाइम जो आहे तो दॅट विल बी reduce. So what you do, you take help of some vehicle. Let us consider you are taking help of bus. मग काय करता, you are acting as a modulating signal, that bus is acting as a carrier signal. आता ऑब्विसली ज्या सिग्नलचा किंवा ज्या दुसऱ्या गोष्टीचा सपोर्ट तुम्ही घेणार आहे त्याच्या कॅरेक्टरिस्टिक्स तुमच्यापेक्षा चांगल्या असतात. That's why you are taking help of the another system. So that is called as the carrier. So you put yourself in the bus. So there is mixing. You are sitting in the bus and along with bus you are moving from the Pandharpur to Solapur. So that process it is called as the modulation process. You are acting as modulating signal. Your capacity is low, but you have to travel for that particular distance. मग काय केलं तुम्ही? You have combined yourself with carrier and carrier plus modulating signal, that is called as modulated. So understand the difference between that two words. Don't get confused. मॉड्युलेटिंग म्हणजे ज्याचं अजून मॉड्युलेशन झालेलं नाही त्याला म्हणतो आपण मॉड्युलेटिंग सिग्नल, विच इज ऑल्सो नोन ॲज बेसबँड सिग्नल और इन्फॉर्मेशन सिग्नल. आणि जेव्हा मॉड्युलेटिंग प्लस कॅरियर कंबाईन करतो आपण तेव्हा कुठला सिग्नल मिळतो आपल्याला आउटपुटला? When we combine modulating plus carrier, which signal we get as a resultant signal? आउटपुटला मिळाले नाही, परत तेच होत आहे. मॉड्युलेटिंग
Modulated.
प्लस yes, understand the difference between the two words. Modulating and modulated. You are familiar with that two terms, developing country and developed country. Developed country means that development part it is already over, and developing means still it has to be developed. त्या रेफरन्सने लक्षात ठेवा हे दोन शब्द. मॉड्युलेटिंग म्हणजे अजून त्याचं मॉड्युलेशन झालेलं नसतं, and modulated means after modulation whatever signal you are getting that is called as modulated signal. So when you combine modulating plus carrier signal you get the modulated signal. So you along with bus you are going from Pandharpur to Solapur. Your strength it is increased, transmission speed it is increased, and you are able to cover the distance within less time. But when you reach at the destination, or when you reach at the Solapur bus stand, what you do, you are not going at your home along with bus. काय करता तुम्ही त्या केस मध्ये? किती जरी चांगला तुमचा कॅरियर असेल तरी रिसिव्हरला काय करतो, दॅट सेपरेशन इज रिक्वायर्ड. जो काही आपला ओरिजिनल इन्फॉर्मेशन सिग्नल आपण ट्रान्समिट केलाय तो सेम सिग्नलच आपल्याला रिसिव्हरला पाहिजे असतो. त्यामुळे आपण काय करतो, परत ट्रान्समिटरला काय केलं, मॉड्युलेटिंग प्लस कॅरियर इज इक्वल टू मॉड्युलेटेड. मॉड्युलेटेडला आपण ट्रान्समिट केलं, रिसिव्हरच्या इनपुटला मिळालाय मॉड्युलेटेड सिग्नल. त्याच्यामधून आपण कुठला सिग्नल मायनस केला डिमॉड्युलेशन प्रोसेसमध्ये? कुठला सिग्नल आपण काढून टाकतो आणि कुठला फक्त आउटपुटला मिळायला पाहिजे आपल्याला डिमॉड्युलेशन मध्ये?
मॅम कॅरियर सिग्नल काढतो आणि फक्त
हा,
मॉड्युलेटिंग सिग्नल जो आहे तो आपल्याला
येस, करेक्ट.
रिसिव्हरला.
So at the receiver you are separating yourself from the bus, you are coming out of the bus and then you go to your home alone. Means that separation process is required. त्याला आपण म्हणतो डिमॉड्युलेशन. तर हा सिंपल एक्झाम्पल तुम्ही हे लक्षात ठेवा, so that you will not have any confusion in this modulation part. दोन्हीचं कंबाईन, कारण हे कन्सेप्ट खूप महत्वाचं आहे मॉड्युलेशन मध्ये. होल युअर अॅनालॉग कम्युनिकेशन सब्जेक्ट इज rotating around this modulation term. So it is still there are some students who are having confusion in these basic points. That's why I'm repeating it frequently. So remember, modulation required two signals, modulating signal and carrier signal. Modulating signal is also known as baseband signal or information signal. Modulating signal is having less frequency, carrier is having high frequency. So at transmitter, which process takes place? Modulating plus carrier is equal to modulated. That is taking place at the transmitter side. चॅनल मधून तुम्ही ट्रान्समिट करता, रिसिव्हरच्या इनपुटला मिळतो मॉड्युलेटेड सिग्नल. रिसिव्हरच्या इनपुटला काय होतं? मॉड्युलेटेड सिग्नल मायनस कॅरियर सिग्नल. You are able to get the original modulating signal at the receiver side. तुम्ही प्रॅक्टिकल मध्ये पण जर परफॉर्मन्स तुम्हाला आठवत असेल तर बघा तुम्ही, आपल्याला जो सिग्नल ट्रान्समिट केलेला आहे तोच ओरिजिनल सिग्नल आपल्याला रिसिव्हरला मिळतो. ओके, सो दिस इज पार्ट ऑफ द मॉड्युलेशन. सो these are the definitions. So modulation is the process of varying the characteristics of the signal. किंवा आपण another definition is, it is the process of superimposing the high frequency signal with low frequency signal. Various definitions are there. किंवा तुम्ही इथं सिम्पली एक डेफिनेशन लक्षात ठेवू शकता की मॉड्युलेशन इज द प्रोसेस in which the characteristics of carrier signal are changed with the characteristics of modulating signal. These key points you remember. मॉड्युलेशन मध्ये नेहमी कॅरियरच्या कॅरेक्टरिस्टिक्स चेंज होतात with respect to modulating signal. So this is the definition of modulation, and obviously the device which performs the modulation part, that is called as the modulator. Okay, then demodulation means what? It is the process of extracting the original information signal from the carrier. किंवा काय म्हणू शकतो आपण? Modulated signal minus carrier is equal to the original signal. So here I have written the formula. Modulating plus carrier is equal to modulated signal, and this happens at transmitter part. Then modulated minus carrier is equal signal that happens at the receiver part. Okay, so these are the basic definitions of modulation and demodulation. Okay, now basically there are two types of modulation, analog modulation and digital modulation. आता मला सांगा काय डिफरन्स असतो analog modulation मध्ये आणि digital modulation मध्ये? कशाला म्हणायचं analog modulation आणि कशाला म्हणायचं digital modulation? Tell me. When we call analog modulation and when we call digital modulation, तर मॉड्युलेशन मध्ये तर दोन सिग्नल लागतात, आपण बघितलं. कुठले दोन सिग्नल लागतात? मॉड्युलेटिंग सिग्नल आणि कॅरियर सिग्नल. मग कशाला म्हणायचं अॅनालॉग मॉड्युलेशन आणि डिजिटल मॉड्युलेशन? कशाला म्हणायचं सांगा मला. ऍट लिस्ट हिअर इट इज गिवन फ्रॉम दॅट यू शुड रीड अँड टेल. काय
Ma'am,
कधी
if
म्हणतो
we
आपण?
changes the amplitude, amplitude, frequency or phase, then that modulation technique are called as analog modulation techniques.
Then
And digital modulation,
yes, digital modulation means, okay, you just remember the simple concept. When modulating signal and carrier signal both are in analog form, then it is called as analog modulation. when modulating signal and carrier signal both are in digital form, or sorry, either one of the signal is in digital form, that is called as the digital modulation. Okay, this simple concept you understand. सध्या लक्षात ठेवा की जर दोन्ही पैकी एक सिग्नल तुमचा डिजिटल फॉर्म मध्ये असेल तर त्याला आपण म्हणतो डिजिटल मॉड्युलेशन, आणि जेव्हा मॉड्युलेटिंग सिग्नल आणि कॅरियर सिग्नल दोन्हीही अॅनालॉग फॉर्म मध्ये असतात देन इट इज कॉल्ड एज अॅनालॉग मॉड्युलेशन. मग अॅनालॉग मॉड्युलेशन मध्ये तीन टाइप आहेत, अँप्लिट्यूड मॉड्युलेशन, फ्रिक्वेन्सी मॉड्युलेशन आणि फेज मॉड्युलेशन. व्हाय इट इज कॉल्ड एज अॅनालॉग कम्युनिकेशन? बिकॉज carrier signal and modulating signal, both the signals are in analog form. That's why it is called as the analog modulation method. त्याच्यामध्ये कॅरियरची कुठली कॅरेक्टरिस्टिक्स चेंज होते ह्याच्यावरून तीन टाइप पडलेले आहेत. कॅरियरचं अँप्लिट्यूड चेंज झालं तर त्याला म्हणतात अँप्लिट्यूड मॉड्युलेशन. फ्रिक्वेन्सी फेज रिमेन कॉन्स्टंट. फ्रिक्वेन्सी चेंज झाली तर इट इज कॉल्ड एज फ्रिक्वेन्सी मॉड्युलेशन. अँप्लिट्यूड अँड फेज रिमेन्स कॉन्स्टंट. And when phase changes, it is called as phase modulation. At that time, amplitude and frequency remains constant. Okay, so we will see that concepts of all these points in the next lecture, and we will see the derivation for AM and FM and its frequency spectrum. Okay, so are you clear with whatever we have discussed today? At least basic concepts, are you clear with that? Yes, please
Yes, ma'am.
speak something. Okay, so we will see you in the next lecture. And one more thing, as it was the first lecture, I have allowed the latecomers. So from next lecture, please take care that at least within 10 minutes you should join the lecture. I understand there might be some range issues, but within 10 minutes you should attend the lecture. Some students joined at very last. I will not mention the name. You know. So next time I will not allow. So please join the lecture in time. Okay. So whatever is the material, no, I will add in study material sheet as well as I will add in the on your WhatsApp group for A division as well as for B division. Okay, so you just give the attendance. You type your roll number and division in your chat box immediately, and after that you can leave the meeting. Okay.